Your sin runs deep, your grace is more. Your grace is found, is where you are. Where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Teach my song to rise to you when temptation comes my way. When I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up. It's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His sin runs deep. Your grace is more. Your grace is found. Is where you are. Where you are. Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this 98?
Is it, Steve? Are we 98?
We are 98, yes.
Wow. Our 98th episode of Follow Your Faith.
If you think we thought we were going to get through 98 episodes, no.
That is amazing. And a great one. We're going to have a great one tonight. I have a lot of things I'd like to share with you. So I was just telling Marty that he have to ask me a lot of questions about some of the stuff I want to share.
Actually use the word poke.
Yeah, poke
Yeah,
at me,
not
but
answer,
yeah,
poke.
yeah.
Jerry's over there. He's like, okay, let's go.
And I want to say to you, just to start off with, and then we're going to pray. I think one of the main things about these Holy 3 days is we should be challenged. That's what God is really, really like. Let's begin. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. These days are so remarkable and so incredible that I think it takes a lifetime to penetrate. And here I am living a lifetime, and I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface, finding new things every single year about what these days are about. So bless us tonight as we enter into the Holy 3 days, and hopefully in some new ways for all of us. Holy 3 days, 2024. Bless us and give us your wisdom tonight as we try to talk about these remarkable, remarkable things in language and as human beings. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
So thanks everybody for watching.
You talk frequently, obviously, as we get closer about the importance of the Holy 3 days. And you continually make the point. This isn't about 1 day or 2 days. I mean, you drive it home why it's so important to be at all three. Now, with the understanding that maybe Holy Thursday and the Easter Vigil, because they're evening, and, Good Friday is tough because there are people who work. But why is it so important? I mean, I remember as a child, I don't remember going to Holy Thursday Mass, but I remember Good Friday.
You might not.
I remember Good Friday. My mother said we were never allowed to do anything between noon and 3. And as children, I don't know that we went to the vigil a lot. We always went to
you didn't?
No, we went to Easter Sunday Mass. But in our faith, as we, look at the scope of what it is that we believe, and you always, before we talk about each individual day, why is it so important to you that we do all three?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if everybody realizes that the reason why you didn't go to the Easter Vigil because it didn't exist.
Okay. I wondered about that.
The Easter Vigil was done at probably 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning with nobody there.
Oh, all right. Now it makes sense.
Incredibly.
Now, okay.
And Good Friday, if you remember when I was a kid, it's all you did Stations of the Cross, you venerated the cross.
Right.
And it was just 3 hours of stuff. There was no real liturgy. People came and went. I remember sitting in church for Good Friday for part of it and watching people kind of coming in and out the whole time with all that. And then, of course, we went to Mass on Easter Sunday. So Holy Thursday. And so, what I want to say is that the Second Vatican Council restored the Holy Triduum.
Well, now that makes sense.
And you and I are pre-Vatican.
Yes,
we were kids.
Yes, we are.
Now listen to Fleming Rutledge as she talks about the how a Christian should celebrate Easter. She writes, "The Passion and Resurrection are bound together in one narrative." So that's the point too. starting with Holy Thursday and into Good Friday and Easter Vigil, it's considered one liturgy. Robert Jenkins reminds us of the ancient single service of the Triduum, dating from the 3rd century. The 3-day observance beginning on Holy Thursday and extending through Good Friday into Easter Vigil. Present-day worshipers who have undergone a total immersion in modern versions of the Triduum can testify that this way of observing the central Christian events does indeed draw the community into the whole of the drama in a way that simply cannot be equaled by an abbreviated or selective liturgy. The influence of the liturgical movement in various Protestant denominations has introduced more American Christians to some form of the Triduum. Anything that can correct our current tendency to expect an easy, non-threatening leap from Palm Sunday to Easter Day is welcome. So here she is, a Protestant, an Anglican, and she's saying that the Triduum is the way par excellence of celebrating the events that this is really all about here.
Now, at some point in our history, the Mass of the Chrism Mass, was held on Holy Thursday morning. I know in this diocese, it's now held on the Monday of Holy Week.
Correct.
Is that convenience, or is there a reason?
It's absolute convenience.
But so did we lose the significance of why we do that Chrism Mass, since it's not Holy Thursday morning?
I don't know. We did do it on Thursday whenever Bishop Adamek was ordained, if you might remember that one.
Yep.
But usually do it on Monday, and I don't see a difference in doing it on Monday because it's during Holy Week than the Thursday. And I appreciate it actually because it gives you more time to prepare for the Triduum.
Yeah, because it's a pretty busy week for you guys, right? I mean, I'm talking about the priest of the diocese and all that you have to do. It is probably the most, if I can make it more like the rest of the world, it's the most labor-intensive week of the year for you guys.
It's so very, very different. It's labor-intensive.
But I mean, you got a lot to do, right?
Yeah. It's just so remarkably different. That whole week is so remarkably different. And I know that I engage this on a level that most folks don't, only because I live it. And by the way, I tell my family, don't come and visit me at Easter.
Yeah, because you're too big. And on by the time Easter Sunday comes, when you say, go in peace on Easter Sunday, you're like ready to just say, okay, give me some time to myself, right? Because you have been through an exhausting period. All right. So before we go and dissect each day, because I think we should do that, historically, are we talking, did all of this really happen within a 5, 6, or 7 day period?
Yes. No, 3-day period.
But I mean, from the time of Palm Sunday through Easter Sunday, that's 7 days.
Well, you asked that question last time, and I didn't.
It always, I just wonder about that.
I don't think Palm Sunday happened 3 or 4 days before Holy
Thursday.
It depends which gospel you read.
Do you know what I mean? Because it seems, did we as a church, like, let's just condense it into 1 week because it makes sense? Or historically, did it happen the way we celebrate?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's historical in that fashion.
That happened in that order.
But I think Palm Sunday happened, and then Jesus was there for a while, and then came the events of Holy Thursday.
Because, Steve, are you waving at me?
Well, I thought we looked it up last week, and I thought it was 5 days. We looked it up.
I guess what I'm saying is, though,
someone's got to help us with that one. It depends on the gospel. I think the difference between Palm Sunday and Holy Thursday, the time between. I thought that there was longer than just the 3 or 4 days.
The reason I asked that is because, in our church we have a tendency to make things like convenient. We put them together in a season.
The Easter season, that's very controversial, by the way.
That's where I was going. Because I mean, how did this all happen to be just? I guess what I'm asking is, don't think that it was necessarily compartmentalized the way it is, and that. Because people say, well, did it really happen like this? That's not important. It's what we're celebrating or marking or. Maybe
a bit off the subject, but Easter season is based on the Acts of the Apostles in the Gospel of Luke.
Okay.
And in John's Gospel, Pentecost happened on the evening of Easter Sunday.
Really?
So yes.
I've never known that before.
We'll talk about that somewhere along the way.
All right, so let's go to the 3 days. Let's begin on Holy Thursday. All right, we've already established that at least in this diocese, the Chrism Mass is held before Easter
Yeah,
Thursday.
and that's the time we renew my priestly promises. You want to hear what they are?
You have told us before about how that is so important to you
Yeah, it is. It
in
is.
your priesthood, because that's a time where I remember, I'm trying to remember what you said one year. It was like, regardless of what has happened to this point.
Yeah.
And I remember you doing your renewal of your, and it was not an easy thing for you to do.
That was during the scandal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, it's a challenge, but why is it so important for you to
You know, and folks, if you go to the Chrism Mass, it's almost anticlimactic. It's not a big part of the ceremony at all.
Okay.
But we do it, and it's important to me because I get a chance to say yes. Again, what I actually do say is I am. You know, so basically it says, and the bishop.
And this is whole the
it's
Chrism Mass.
The Chrism Mass.
Oh, so this would be Monday of Holy Week in this diocese.
Right. So the bishop asks, you resolve to renew in the presence of the bishop and God's holy people the promises you made. I am. Are you resolved to be more united with Jesus Christ and more closely conformed to him, denying yourself and confirming these promises about sacred duties in the Catholic Church, which, prompted by love of him, you willingly and joyfully pledge on the day of your priestly ordination? Say, I am. Are resolved to be a faithful steward of the mysteries of God in the Holy Eucharist, other liturgical rites, and to discharge faithfully the sacred office of teaching, following Christ the head and shepherd, not seeking any gain, but moving only by zeal of souls. And you say yes.
I remember one year you saying about, you know, it's like rhythmic, it's roto. You just think you say these words, and it really
it means a lot. Yeah,
it means a lot to you.
it's like you guys renewing your marriage vows.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit stronger than that. And I remember you talking about it one time, and it was very emotional, and you were trying to express why it's so important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I wonder if every priest who renews, I think it's like, again, it's rote. They just, okay, they say it, but it meant a lot to you, right?
Yeah. It's of course been my life. Yeah.
Well, and that's
hard
the point.
sometimes.
You know, that's the point, because you admit this isn't the easiest path I could have taken. I wonder about you guys all the time, because I think, yeah, all right, so you have your ordination and you do everything and you lay prostrate and you do all, and then, yeah, that's fine for that day. And I don't mean that it's not significant, because it is. Mm-hmm. But then how long have you been a priest?
Almost 40 years.
And so every year you have to say, yeah, I think I got what I signed up for.
I think I missed maybe once or twice over the whole 40 years.
But it means a lot to you, doesn't it, as an individual?
Yeah, it's why. The big question is not that that I did it. It's like, why was I chosen to do this?
That's the point.
That's what baffles me the most.
Yeah. Well, and especially when you talk about where you were and how you got to where you are. Yeah. I mean, and now for you every year to say, okay, there had to be a reason that you.
And every year is counted now. It's like,
well, no. Well, every year for any of us, you know, no matter what it is that are chosen or what we're doing, but that's really, really different. Can we start with at least what Triduum means?
3 days. Three.
That's it. Okay, because it's like one of those people go, it's the Triduum. They go, the Triduum. And I go, no, it's the Triduum.
Yeah.
Which is a difficult.
3 days.
Okay, so it begins with the Mass of the Lord's Supper. We all know the story, but why do you really hammer away at the point that if you're going to be faithful to what we believe, it's so important to be? I will tell, and I've told people this, I said, listen, if you've never been there, you have no idea what it is. You don't know why it is so important, but you preach it. You're not the first priest I've ever had said, you know, you got to be here. Why is it so important to our faith?
Well, I began by saying to everybody that the major theme I'm going to try to get across to everybody here tonight is the idea that God is different than you think. And let me also, in all this, let me define religion. Now, religion is in many ways us as human beings somehow to project onto God our needs, our wants, our desires, what we think God needs to do. And here, I think in Christianity, and by the way, in the book of The Crucifixion by Fleming Rutledge, she makes a big distinction between religion and Christianity. She makes the point that Christianity really isn't religion at all, because religion is about what we want, what we're projecting, what we desire from God, and we want all these things. She is saying that Christianity is an expression of what God is really, really like, that we, in many ways, I think oftentimes can't buy. Now, back to Holy Thursday again. So now Holy Thursday is deeply connected to Good Friday, because on Holy Thursday, Jesus does in the upper room what he does on Golgotha on Good Friday. So what does he do? First of all, he washes feet. Slaves wash feet. And so here is God acting like a slave, washing people's feet. Then after that, he gives to the 12 himself in the Eucharist. And this is a completely vulnerable act. And as I mentioned, I think last week, I guess it was, and I'm not finished thinking this all the way through, but you'll hear me talk about this on Holy Thursday. Judas was in the congregation on Holy Thursday and received the body and blood of Jesus. And so here is Jesus, here's God being remarkably, remarkably vulnerable in so many ways, that he washes feet and he gives himself completely. And I also want to say that this table fellowship of the Last Supper is an expression of the tableship that he had when he was eating with tax collectors and sinners and prostitutes and the riffraff, all of it. This table fellowship that I have heard over and over again by theologians, that's the thing that made that wanted them to kill him, was because, and not only and here's the thing, this tableship wasn't just him eating with them, his tableship was him welcoming them back. And I keep on thinking more and more and more, we still haven't figured that out yet. How do you welcome everybody back like that? And in the room, obviously, if you're doing that, are people like Judas, are people like Mary Magdalene, are people who are all different kinds. And so here is a way of looking at God that I don't think we've figured out yet in Holy Thursday.
Is it odd? I mean, he knew what Judas was going to do. He later says so.
Everybody talks about that. That's an interesting point, and I don't have any response to that.
I mean, it's
he
like,
seemed to have known it. Some level.
Well, when he says,
"Do what you got to do,"
and he also says,
do it quickly.
Somebody, that who dips into the
Yes,
So I mean, he knew. That wasn't a point where he's going, let's see which one of these guys does. No, he knew what was going to happen, and he tells him, whatever you have to do, go do it and do it quickly. And yet he invites him in.
Yeah, and he didn't say to him, you can't get communion.
No, he gives him. That's the part that I've never understood. Why would he do that? Because he didn't have to do that. I mean, I don't think any of us would have said, oh, he excluded Judas. Well, we know why he excluded him. He's about to sell him out.
We would not have been shocked by that.
No. So why do you think he did that?
Because
maybe it's not fair. I'm asking you to
decide
why Christ did something.
Because he wants to really redeem us all. He really does. He wants us to kind of get it, and he wants everybody, and he goes to the nth degree for that to happen, which we're going to talk about as Good Friday unfolds here for us a little bit. But when I was now, folks, really. Have we figured that out yet? Are we able to really welcome people with, I think Jesus welcomed people, and I welcome people and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, did I do the right thing? Was that right? Should I have told them something else? Should I have said something differently? But he just welcomed these people over.
I think a lot of people don't realize how significant it must have been when you talk about Christ and forgiving and dying for us. he broke bread with the man that he knew was going to sell him out, was going to do the one thing most responsible for the Romans coming to seize him and take him.
Now, when did he predict Peter's?
Yeah, that's good. When is
Betrayal.
that? What is that? Is
I
that
don't know when. No, somebody look that up. Did Jesus predict Peter's betrayal before before Holy Communion or afterwards?
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
and
know.
the predicting Peter's betrayal was certainly much more than accepting Judas into that
Yeah.
communion of people.
But what's the difference except that?
What is the difference? Except Peter had a more dominant role within the apostles.
he was the
themselves.
leader.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy. Jerry,
I
you
think it's one thing to ignore Jesus, to reject Jesus,
right?
but to actually
Betray.
betray him.
Yeah,
You can't get on another level away from God than that,
you know,
I
and I've
think.
always
that's
thought
the
of-
love that Jesus is going to do. Someone
you know,
who
and I
will
always thought
betray him.
what Peter did. I mean, yeah, that was, because Peter was afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's a human, right? He sees what's going on, and he said, "Oh, I don't know, man. If I line up with this dude, it could end badly for me." But Judas, who sat in that Last Supper and shared communion, and then went and obviously, the gospel teaches us he wasn't real happy with himself, because what did he do?
Committed suicide. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, but that whole thing, and Christ is like sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, as a human being, would I have been able to show? I think it's a sign of humility, to be honest with you, because I look,
God is profoundly humble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I don't know that we understand that very much,
That is the point. We're gonna try to drive home tonight over and over again.
because we're not.
What is God really, really like? And I think we begin to get an inkling of that. And by the way, there's that. The author escapes me for the moment. The idea of calling Holy Thursday the Great Revolution, and the author goes on to say that Holy Thursday is more critical than Christmas. Actually more critical than Easter, because here Jesus goes to the low. Here's the one who's on top that actually goes to the very, very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And here is what God is really like. And I don't get it. I don't know if I get it, but
Well, if you don't get it, the rest of us are really lost.
just
You're
trying-
right.
I get it intellectually, but I got to wrap my brain around all this stuff.
Catechism chapter 6:12. The Catechism says, "The cup of the new covenant, which Jesus anticipated when he offered himself at the Last Supper, is afterwards accepted by him from his Father's hands in his agony in the Garden of Gethsemane, making himself obedient unto death." Okay, we all likely think we know what happened in that garden, but what actually did happen there?
That the garden is critical, everybody. It's really critical, because here, if Mary made her decision at the Annunciation to be the mother of God, if Jesus made the decision at his baptism that he was going to enter into his ministry, here in the garden, Jesus made the decision that he was going to do whatever the Father told him to do. He was going to do all this. Now, one of the better books that I have read about all this is The Mystery of Christ, the Liturgy as Spiritual Experience. And I want to share with all of you a little bit about what he says, happened in the Garden of Gethsemane. He writes, Jesus took upon himself the human condition more and more concretely as life unfolded. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he took upon himself the sin of the world with all its consequences. He experienced every level of loneliness, guilt, anguish you and I and any human being have ever experienced. Every level of it anyone ever experienced. The ghastly sum of accumulated human misery, sin and guilt descended upon Jesus. He felt himself being asked by the Father to identify with this misery and all its immensity and horror. After pleading in vain for the apostles to watch 1 hour with him, he withdrew a little way from them and fell on his face, crying out. And by the way, I got to say this. He sweat blood. Now, I understand that is biologically possible to do. That you can sweat blood. That somehow the membranes, I guess, maybe in your face or something like that can actually burst open.
Yeah.
And you can sweat blood in a certain way. You can actually do that. I can't imagine what it would be like to do that. After pleading with the apostles to watch 1 hour with him, he withdrew a little way from there and fell and cried out, Abba, if it's possible, let this chalice pass away from me. The clear realization that he was being asked by the Father. Now listen to this part. This is an important part. Asked by the Father to thrust himself as far from the Father as anyone has ever experienced caused him unimaginable agony. Could you imagine Jesus being thrust as far as anyone has ever experienced away from God? He had absolutely a complete total experience of abandonment. By absorbing the separate self sense into his inmost being, Jesus became sin. Does that make sense?
You will probably understand that better than I would.
He became sin in that sin is this total, complete alienation from God. The consequence of sin, folks, are loneliness and misery and horror and complete total separation from God. No one and no human being has ever experienced that separation from God to the degree that Jesus did. And that's what we mean when we say the words, he became sin. So the words, it's like Paschal mystery. It's one of those sayings that we say all the time. Jesus became sin. We say that, we mean that he experienced that existential dread of being completely abandoned by God. He experienced that. Paul writes, he who knew not sin was made sin for our salvation. Jesus was torn between the choices presented. Am I to become sin and thus renounce my personal relationship with my Father? Or again, am I to become sin and thus experience separation from the one who is the whole of my life? Nevertheless, Father, not my will, but yours be done. So that phrase, does that make sense? Anybody? Folks, does that make sense? He became sin meant he was thrust as far away from God as is possible, and he chose it. And he did it for us so that none of us could ever say, God never experienced what I did, never experienced what happened to me. God doesn't know that. Yes, he does in Jesus Christ. So Jesus had to become human. We can only have a God who is as human as Jesus is because we have a God who completely, totally identifies with us in every single way. Folks, did that make sense to you at all? Now, at the phrase, he became sin, it seems like it's kind of a phrase, but does it make sense of what I kind of shared there?
That might be a little deeper than I can comprehend at the moment. I suppose that's Jerry. I was looking over at you thinking, help me, brother.
I was half listening to all that because I was looking some stuff up from something back. I just want to back up a little bit. Linda said that as far as Peter denying Jesus, that's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, actually.
When did he do it?
At the Last Supper, when Jesus said,
before the Eucharist or after?
Oh,
yeah. See, that's one
That's
of
the question we want to know.
yeah.
And someone just texted me.
I'm thinking after.
And the musical Jesus Christ Superstar, which is much closer to what we think we know about the events. I mean, yes, it's a musical, and yes, it was created for Broadway, but it's really, and the person wrote that, what happened in Gethsemane with Judas said, this is what happens in the garden. Because he was like torn. He really didn't understand what it was that he was doing. And I've always wondered, how could somebody who was sitting at that table and broke bread, and then, obviously I think he was probably more convoluted, confused than any of us have ever been about our own faith.
Yeah, I think it was Pope Benedict that said Judas was basically a sycophant. In other words, kind of a butt kisser. And so he was always expecting Jesus to rise to the top. Here's he's experienced Jesus going to the very, very bottom.
Yeah.
And that kind of really confused him. He wanted to go to the top, and so he went to and other people said he thought he was forcing Jesus' hand.
Do you think he ever? He was born to do what he did, wasn't he?
Well,
You know how you always
I
hear
don't wanna
that.
I don't believe that to be
Okay,
true. Yeah.
please then
Yeah.
just say that. No, he
I
was
don't
not.
believe he was. No, nobody's born to sin like that.
I mean, this guy was,
If Jesus said it's better you not to be born, he did say that.
yeah.
I think it was in John's gospel, but I don't believe he was born for that. But the garden make any sense?
Jerry.
It was after the meal.
It was after the meal that
After
he
the
predicts
meal. It was
that.
after
So
the
he gave
meal that-
communion to Peter. You
Yeah, he
know,
gave
so-
communion to everybody.
Everybody, and
Yeah,
then all
yeah.
that's when the drama all happened after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he went into that room, and it's not like he didn't know what was going to happen. And then he goes to the garden, and it's not like although I always wondered, did he really comprehend what was going to happen in the garden?
In the garden, I think by the time he was in garden, Jesus got it all. He
Yeah, but
knows
when he comes back and he yells at him, he said, "You guys couldn't even stay awake for 20 minutes while
Well,
I'm,
he
you know."
knew, I think he knew the drama of his complete total sacrifice of himself. I
And-
think he knew that.
Are you jumping in over there? And wouldn't it have been easy when Judas brings the Romans? I mean, he could have taken off then, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even run. I mean, and here's the thing I've always never understood. Why did the rest of the disciples, they just like hung out there, man? You know, like here come these guys with spears and stuff. Were they afraid for their own life? I mean, were they giving him up at that point?
I think they didn't know what was going on at
Yeah, I was
that
going to
point.
say, they probably didn't know what was happening.
But once he was captured, they cut and run.
All right, so let's go to Holy Thursday. And when you go to Mass of the Lord's Supper, it's a very telling experience in my view. I mean, you really do start to feel why it's so important to be there. Why is it that it is the only Mass of the year that ends so dramatically different? What is the point?
It
of
does
all
not
that?
even end though. Really.
Well, okay, I'm
Comes to a
sorry.
comes
To a conclusion,
Yeah.
it's like it's time to leave now. But I mean, and it's not even time to leave because you're invited to stay.
Yeah.
But it's so different than any other celebration that
and
we
we'll
have.
throw a little caveat, a little thing for Jerry. He's going to be out, weather permitting, be outside for Holy Thursday with your.
Charcoal fire.
You want to explain what your charcoal fire is about?
Well, it's just kind of a meditation afterwards. We have built a charcoal fire. You know, we're standing around.
Now, the
there.
charcoal
Peter,
fire on-
Peter stood around a charcoal.
Yeah,
fire.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were all standing there warming themselves, and it's at the charcoal fire that Jesus denied.
So
or
the
Peter denied Jesus.
So all of us will know the charcoal fire at the vigil because we know we're lighting the
That's different.
candle.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but on Thursday, same fire, same place, different meaning.
They're a different place.
different place.
Oh, where-
and
where
different
is your-
meaning? Yeah, 'cause the that's not you're not really that's not symbolizing the charcoal fire and the vigil, is it? I mean,
No,
you're not-
the vigil fire is not the same as your charcoal.
So if we see this fire 2 nights of the 3, it's not really, it's different, but
Very
it's
different.
not different.
Yeah,
They're not even they won't be confused.
I'll be
Yeah.
very honest with you. I've never seen the fire on Holy Thursday. I didn't even realize you guys did that. Where do you do it at
We'll do it off to the side, looking at the church, the right side of the church.
like
Yeah.
towards the school? Are you over
The
there?
other side, the other, yeah.
The other side,
Yeah.
towards, okay.
out in the grass out there.
All right. So our celebration on Holy Thursday, it's a very telling experience as we're trying to picture what happened. And then we come to the end, and it ends differently than any other
We
celebration.
transfer the Eucharist to the tabernacle. That's the best place for us. You're supposed to transfer the Eucharist to another building, but we don't do that because now when I was in New Baltimore, we transferred to a whole completely different place. But we transfer the Eucharist over there, and then we begin to participate in the Passion. And whenever I arrive over by the tabernacle, they begin stripping the altar.
Yeah.
Now, today, they were actually practicing their Psalm 22 that they were going to be singing at that moment. They were practicing it after Mass a little bit. My God, why have you forsaken me? So we
Right.
strip the altar and take everything down. And then what we've been doing, this really isn't quite liturgically right, but it gives us more room to do things. We, with the stripped altar, stripped sanctuary, everything else, we very simply place the ciborium on the middle of the altar there for a time of adoration and entering into the Passion of Jesus until 11 o'clock.
Okay. Talk in real words. What's the ciborium? What are you talking
Oh, that's where the hosts are in the tabernacle.
Right. It's not the, forgive me, what do you call the,
of the monstrance. No.
Yes, no, this is just
Just a simple, about this big little set. We put the hosts in there. We'll put that on the altar. We'll dim all the lights. We'll pray the Rosary of Our Mother of Sorrows during that time.
after
Yes.
that Mass of the
Oh yeah.
Lord's
It's
Supper.
all come to
The
everything.
charcoal fire will be going outside so
Charcoal
people
fire's
can go
outside.
in and out.
Please walk over
hopefully
and
the
say,
conversation of
way to go,
charcoal
Jerry,
fire
please, charcoal
isn't
fire.
about the Steelers acquisitions. You know, we're going to be talking about
Yeah, that's
what's
right.
going on.
Yeah, we actually
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about.
talk about what's going on. So,
All right.
so and then we'll say the liturgy of the hours that the monks do.
And this is all not right after Mass of the Lord's Supper,
we
or
spread it out until
yeah,
11 o'clock.
because people will leave. They'll
Come and go.
because they've
Yep.
come and they'll go. But there are other things happening that, if you really are participating, I guess I'm trying to just make sure that people go, well, I don't understand why we do this. I'm hoping that you're going to tell them. this is
we are
why.
entering the Passion, and then at 11 o'clock we just go home.
That's it.
We go.
And that Mass itself is like, there's no closing hymn. It's unlike any other Mass that we celebrate all year long.
And Good Friday has no opening hymn.
Right. And when we leave Holy Thursday, it's so quiet. Like,
Yes.
please don't discuss what you did today and what the prices in the grocery store were.
Right.
You leave.
Right.
And it is,
In silence. We all leave in
it
silence.
really is extraordinary in that we become somebody else that night, right? I mean, because usually especially at Omos, it's such a friendly place. I mean, people stick around after Mass and they talk about it. Not that night.
It's kind of funny. Good Friday, we tell the hospitality folks not to greet everybody.
I wondered about that.
We don't know. You just give them the programs.
Yeah,
and then-
Joyce, my wife Joyce's hospitality that day, and I'm thinking, what are you supposed to do? Because you're not really supposed to say, welcome, how are you?
Yeah,
It's just,
we're
Let's-
just coming back to begin the liturgy, the same liturgy.
and let's move on to Good Friday. The word good originated from the traditional good, G-O-O-D-E, which means holy. The central act of worship is the liturgy of the Lord's Passion. We process, kiss, or touch a cross as a sign of reverence for the symbol of our salvation. If you've never been to a Good Friday, and it's not a Mass, it's a service.
Yes, not a Mass.
Now, as I found out within the last week, we're going to do something a little different this year at Good Friday.
In the place of the homily, we're going to do a bunch of us together. We're going to have a team of 5 of us are going to do a little meditation on the 7 last words.
May I just say, as one of those 5, this is all new to me. And I'm going to speak on behalf of the 3 others, not you, because you know what you're doing. The rest of us are just going to go, okay. My wife, when I told her, she said, wait a minute, you're going to be part of the homily? I said, well, that's what he said. So, I mean, because that's going to be different. You've never done this.
Never
have
done
you?
this before. No, yeah. There was something I found which it's very, very long, and I kind of edited it down and changed some things around. And the 5 of us together are going to do this meditation on the 7 last words of Jesus.
So while the people who are in church with us that day, what will that mean to them, or what should that mean to them? Or what do you hope that it will
I'm
mean to
hoping
them?
that will be a meditation on Jesus on the cross. It'll help us to grasp the drama of Jesus on the cross.
And we, why do we revere the cross? It used to be in many
That brings me to a very good point.
and many years, but I mean, we would come up and we would either kiss the cross or touch the cross, and then COVID happened, and then we changed everything. But still, no matter how we do it, why do we do that?
Okay. Now I mentioned on Holy Thursday that here we are. Now I'm going to continue my theme again with you. What is God really like? And I hope you kind of get this. And now, Holy Thursday, in the Garden of Gethsemane, I try to share with you what is God really like. Now, 1995. Now this is not. This is just one city, Columbus, Ohio, had one of those big conversations about what are you allowed to have in public spaces. Christmas tree, menorah, all the other different things. Well, they allow for the Christmas tree to be there, and they allow for the menorah to be there, but they refuse to allow the cross to be there because they say it is the quintessential religious symbol. Now, if I were to ask everybody watching us right now, ask you, would you agree that the cross is the quintessential religious symbol? How many of us would say yes?
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
right.
All All right, everyone say yes. Now, let me quote Rutledge for all of you here today. She writes, and this can't be emphasized too strongly, she writes. The cross is in no way religious. The cross is by a very long way the most irreligious object ever to find its way into the hearts of faith. J. Christian Baker refers to it as the most non-religious and horrendous feature of the gospel. Listen to this sentence, host. Listen carefully. The crucifixion marks out the essential distinction between Christianity and religion. The distinction between Christianity and religion. And what she's saying here is that Christianity isn't religion by any standard that religion has been in our world up to this time. Religion is defined in these pages as either an organization, system, or belief, or ultimately a loose collection of ideas and practices projected out from humanity's needs and wishes. The cross is irreligious because no human being individually or human beings collectively would have projected their hopes, wishes, and longings on a crucified man. Who would ever believe, I'm going to trust a crucified man? And then she goes on and on and on to talk about what it means to be crucified. The crucified person is a person who is shamed. The crucified person is a person who is dehumanized. The crucified person is a person who is really systematically brought to be a nobody, absolute total nobody. And she goes on to talk about how some different churches have these themes of talks on why was Jesus died, and she says that's wrong. It should be why was Jesus crucified. That's the big question. And then finally, she says this, if I may share this last part, and you guys can tell me what you think about this. Here again, what is God really like? Crucifixion is specifically designed to be the ultimate insult to personal dignity. The last word in humiliating and dehumanizing treatment. This might be my introduction to our homily that we're going to be doing on Good Friday. Degradation was the whole point. As Joel Green describes it, executed publicly, situated in a major crossroads or at a well-trafficked artery, devoid of clothes. They were naked.
Right.
They were naked. I wonder, we have not yet determined whether Jesus was completely naked on that cross or not. I don't know.
Well, if he wasn't, he would have been the odd man out because that was part of the humiliation, right?
All right. Well, devoid of clothing, left to be eaten by birds and beasts.
Right.
That didn't happen to him. Victim of crucifixions were subject to optimal, unmitigated, vicious ridicule. Now, folks, that's God. That's what God is like. That's what God. Now, I read to you that Jesus became sin on the Garden of Gethsemane. Here is an expression of Jesus becoming sin. In the 7 last words, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Well, if the cross doesn't mean anything, why do we venerate it?
I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything.
Well, no, yeah, you did.
For a religious person, it shouldn't mean anything. But here's
okay, well, then why do we venerate it as religious people?
Well, that's the question we have to ask ourselves. I think, am I really a religious person or am I a Christian?
So am I coming up and I'm venerating the cross and I'm only doing it because it's part of the rote we have to do this, but it doesn't really...
I don't know how you got that out of that. No,
because you just basically said that the cross is not... Steve, was I hearing something different or you're sitting over there? I know you're shaking your head.
I mean, is it more about faith?
Well, I think it's more about... what do we expect of God? What do we want God to be? And what is God really like? God is really like somebody who went to the depths of being a nobody. In the Last Supper, he washes feet. He gives communion to everybody. He gives himself to everybody that's there. Garden of Gethsemane, he becomes sin. He throws himself as far away from God as he possibly can. On the cross, he becomes nobody, an absolute nobody. What human being, religiously speaking, would give their heart and soul to a complete, total nobody who's dehumanized on a cross? What I'm saying in all this is, this God is different from what we think.
Okay, so I'm just going to ignore what Rutledge, because what Rutledge writes in that book certainly makes it sound like the cross is not what's important. The actual wooden cross that he's nailed to.
Well, the actual wooden, what is important though?
Well, that's why I'm asking. Why do we venerate it if it really is not?
Oh, it's important. Yes, but it is important.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this
I
because.
think this is kind of a big thing.
Okay, all right. But it just struck me as I was listening to that. I'm thinking, why in the world do I stand in line to venerate this cross then on Good Friday?
Because God is like that. God dies on crosses, but we don't understand, I think, the depth of what that means.
Then why is the cross the symbol of Christianity everywhere?
It's the symbol of Christianity. She is saying it's not the symbol of religion. If religion is a projection of humanity on what we want God to be, and religion pretty much is that for most people, is a projection of what we want God to be. What she's saying is the cross really is a symbol of what God really is like, really is, but we have no idea about how profoundly low God has gone to redeem us. We can't wrap our brain around that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, my wife just told me don't argue, so I'm not arguing. I'm just
That's okay, you can argue.
I'm just trying to understand. And I kept looking over at Brother Steve, and Brother Steve's sitting there going, "Yeah, what?
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm getting it.
Oh, yeah, sure you are. You would say that now because you realize there's a
Yeah,
little.
I'm not going to argue. My wife
No,
will text me and tell
it
me
isn't
not to.
about arguing. It's about
No, it's not arguing. I was just trying to understand.
I'm reading. I'm going, wow.
Yeah, I guess we need to clarify things like Lisa asked. Why do we wear a cross as jewelry?
Good question.
Why am I wearing a
Good
cross
question.
right now? Why, if it doesn't? I mean, I wear it out of humility. I don't wear it because it's a piece of jewelry. I wear it because it's a part of me. Why on our new wedding rings do we have little crosses?
I have a little cross on here.
Yeah. Why do I have crosses on this? Right on these beads that
I'm not criticizing the cross.
Okay, maybe we got that a little different.
I'm saying the cross.
I don't mean criticize, but it
is what
kind
we
of
think. Okay, it's jewelry. It's not the first 3 centuries, as she writes them, which I've heard many, many times before. In the first 3 centuries of Christianity, they would never have worn a cross. They would have worn. What's the most despicable form of death in our world today? Let's say in our country.
Well, we don't do anything. I mean, it's probably any kind of death penalty, whether
Like-
it's probably electrocution.
Yeah,
I
like
would
wearing
think.
a electric chair around your
Right.
neck. Yeah.
But this is a cross. This is not. I don't wear a crucifix. I wear a cross, which is a symbol of what I believe. A crucifix is okay. It's really focused. Mine is just the cross. I
believing
mean,
that God
every
did
church I've
that?
ever been in. I mean, for crying out loud, everywhere in a crucifix. That's the central focus.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All right.
But I'm saying what she's saying is here, it is not a religious symbol in the sense of how she defines religion as what we want God to do for us. A projection of our wishes, our needs onto God. She is saying God is completely different from all of that. Now, I wouldn't say electric chair for today. I would say something more like a lynching.
Yeah, but we don't lynch people anymore. But okay, I get.
Maybe we do.
Well, but I mean, that's not our. What? Okay, we're getting.
But would I as a black person today, if wear around my neck a noose as a symbol of my God in some fashion, because my God died on a black man. I wonder if they would actually wear a noose even still if they did that. But what would a black man think today if his God got lynched? Would he worship? He would say, wait, time out. My God just got lynched? My God's supposed to be saving me from getting lynched. And my God got lynched. And so therefore, who is this God? What is God really like? That's the best analogy I can come up with. That makes sense.
All right. Now, this is not fair because we have 11 minutes left, and I want to get through the rest of the. So I have to cut this discussion off. Maybe that's one for later on because it's not like it goes away. It's something we believe in. So we're moving on to Holy Saturday. Okay. We know that if you go into any church, any Catholic church, probably any Christian church anywhere in the world on Holy Saturday, it's like a completely different. Everything's bare. There's nothing happening there. The tabernacles
Nothing's
are
going on,
empty.
yeah.
We wait in silence at the Lord's tomb for the resurrection. I mean, it's a totally different day. And then we come, and you made a point before when you said, years ago we didn't do an Easter vigil, and
Right. Yeah.
and
When you were kids, there was no
yeah,
such
I
thing.
mean, it was Easter Sunday. That was like Saturday. I remember as a kid, Saturday was when we took the basket of food to the church to get blessed. That was
They do that still,
the
so
bread and the eggs and the kibasa. I mean, I was Eastern European, so that's when we did all that.
Yeah, they
So
do.
now it's totally different.
Yep.
We get to sunset on Easter or on Holy Saturday. Like Saturday is nothing until we get together after sunset in church.
Which is the beginning of Sunday.
Yeah. Okay.
By
Explain
Jewish,
that.
the Jewish Passover began at sundown the evening before. So Shabbat for a
Right.
Jew is on Thursday. No, on Friday night. Friday night. Because Sabbath is on Saturday. So Shabbat starts sundown of Friday. That's the beginning of that day.
We walk into church Holy Saturday night. It's dark.
Darkness. Yes.
If you've been there before, nothing is happening. It's very quiet. It's very solemn. You walk in, you sit down, and then you're told, now you got to get outside. So we get up and we go back outside, and Jerry's got his fire going. This is a different fire.
No. Jerry
Jerry doesn't have
No,
anything
that's
to do with
Thursday
this
night.
fire.
He's gone.
This is a different fire. Okay, and we're going to light the Paschal candle, and we're going to through all this, and then we walk in
Well,
and
the fire's kind of big because we go outside, we build this fire, and we light this fire, which is meant to express the resurrection of Jesus. And then we light only the Easter candle, the Christ candle from that fire.
right.
We go right to the entrance church and we sing Christ the light. And then we light a couple other candles. And then as the Easter candle leads the way in the church
Right.
in darkness, we begin to light everybody else's light. Except
Right.
anybody that's there that's not baptized, they don't get a candle.
Except, how are you going to know who's? I'm sorry,
We do know. The 5 that are going to be baptized that night will not get a candle.
I know that, but we don't know anybody in the pews that isn't baptized if
Well,
they're there.
I might say something before.
Okay.
I
Now,
think
I
Now we
just,
got to check IDs.
now look what I just did. I just opened a door that I probably should close real quickly here because
So
now
it's
it's going to
called
be,
the
what are you doing? What are you
The liturgy of light. No, they shouldn't have a candle.
But okay, but then we come. The point I'm trying to make with Holy Saturday and with the vigil, which is one of the most. My wife and I have talked about this a long time. I've heard people say, "Oh my, it's the longest mass of the year." Yeah, it is, but it's really not long because there's a lot of things happening. Okay, I want to talk more about the vigil, but then I've always felt like, why would you go to church on Easter Sunday morning if you're not there for the vigil? That's the big one.
Right, it's a big one.
And then Easter Sunday is kind of like, okay, it's a Sunday, right? I mean, like, why would you go on Easter Sunday when you miss what really matters? Doesn't?
The Easter Vigil is the greatest liturgy in the life of the church.
So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show up on Sunday. Why have Mass on Sunday?
Well, I think.
I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't mind if we didn't have Mass on
I don't
Sunday.
think
Convenience.
Easter Vigil's for little kids.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
So, and
But there's going to be little kids there anyway. You know
we'll be
that.
baptized in a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, all right. But we're also going to have ones that don't exactly understand why it's important to
They'll
be
probably
quiet.
sleeping, I hope.
I hope. We can only hope. But seriously, I mean, it just seems like it is, if you've never been to one, if you're going to go to Mass, if you're only going to go to Mass once a year, that's the one to go to.
That's the one to go to. Yeah.
And why is it so important? We renew our baptismal promises.
Yes, there you
go. It is really, really, it is. And I remember going to my first one thinking, and then I thought, oh my, this is so beautiful. This is so meaningful. This is what we are all about.
That's who we are. It absolutely expresses, it's the liturgy of the light. And then the singing of the Exultet. Keith, I guess you're going to be singing that again this year. And then the liturgy of the word par excellence, liturgy of the word. And then we celebrate the great sacraments of baptism, confirmation, Eucharist. That's what we do. And all of it, and you nailed it. That's who we are. This is who we are. This is it.
The Exultet. That's a tough one.
Who sings that? And that's another way around.
Yeah, and I've always wondered. I said, do priests say, okay, I
I've
don't have,
actually sung the simple version of that.
but that's a tough one because
That is a tough one.
give us a little sense of the historical meaning of that.
Linda, help us out. 3rd century Exultet, that goes all the way back to the 3rd century.
But I mean, that's a Jewish, right? That was something, or not
So
Jewish?
that's completely Christian.
Completely Christian. So they never sang that. There was not a rabbi that ever did that anywhere.
No.
So it's kind of like a separation between the old and the new.
It is an expression. It does mention the Passover.
Okay.
All right. And that this is the new Passover. It does mention that and all that. And this is the great Jesus, the whole Exultet. We exalt Jesus, the great light. He's the light of the world. He's what we're all about. We're not about being religious in the sense of this projection of all of our needs and wants onto God. This is Jesus Christ. And as I've tried to share with you tonight, God is different from what we think. And here's Jesus Christ. Risen, his Father raises him from the dead.
I want to get to that because we only have a few minutes left. We go to the Catechism, chapter 640. Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not, but has risen. Are there any words in our faith that are more important than that?
I can't think so. He's not here. And by the way, on my homily by the way, I wanted to say, I think to create a homily for Easter is the hardest of the.
Well, you're dealing with something that is beyond anything that we comprehend. I mean, because it was like, well, if he's resurrected, why isn't my grandpa or my grandma?
That's another question. I think they are.
You know what I mean? But yes, they are. But I mean, the point is that you're dealing with something that is not, what's the word? We're not reverent. I mean, we're talking about a real, actual event. As Bishop Robert Barron said once, he said, if it didn't happen, people would not have talked about it because they saw the risen Christ. But I mean, that's the heart of everything we believe. If Christ hadn't been resurrected, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Exactly. Now, we would say if Good Friday was the greatest event in all of history, the resurrection is the most significant event that is trans-historical.
And it is the one that is, most people say, yeah, right.
The resurrection. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They all look at it and go, yeah, you guys just believe in this. I mean, this guy came back from the dead. How did he do that?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that.
And I'm compressing here a lot.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, but we're running out of time.
The three different.
Yeah. That's why I'm trying to move it along. And Jerry's over there. He's like,
Linda said that the Exultet, named after the first word Exultet, rejoice, is an ancient hymn of praise. It seems to have origins in the 4th and 5th century.
Okay.
Okay.
We got that. But now this resurrection, I mean, this is the one. This separates Christians from the rest of the world.
Everything. The whole thing, the whole 3 days do. And so we believe God is not only resurrected, but he resurrected now. That's what he resurrected now, and he made himself present now.
Right.
That now, if you would have said to the ancient Jews, there's going to be a resurrection in the end, we'll say, okay, fine. And what Jesus did, he did it now, right now. He's resurrected right now. And so therefore, here it is, and we can enter into this resurrection life right now. The heaven is here. The kingdom is here. That, I think, and I'm going to say that on Easter tonight. Heaven is here, and we are and we can experience heaven in this life. That is the resurrection. We can experience it. There's hope for us now that was never hoped for because he became sin. Our sins can be forgiven. Our sins can be gone away, and we can begin to realize this resurrection life right now. What good news!
Yeah, because if we, as I said, if we didn't have the resurrection, everything else is just
and
story.
It all had to happen through Holy Thursday and Good Friday. Could not have happened.
Again, why your 3 days?
All 3 days.
And I've heard you say it, and you really do press it. And I don't, having done it, I'm not sure that people understand why it's so important. But if you do it
over and
if
over,
you're there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you'll go, ooh, okay, now I get why Father Mark is so insistent that we do that. Now, again, there are going to be people, Good Friday, I mean, it's 1:00 in the afternoon. It's a tough time if you're working and you can't be. I don't want people to feel like, Oh, you didn't come on Good Friday because you had to work or you were,
I know, neither do I. And of course, at 7 o'clock on Good Friday, we're going to have the healing through the cross, an evening of praise and worship and prayer for each other that evening.
Okay, so now I just said if you can't be there at 1 o'clock, you're all right. Now you just told me you're
Well,
not all right.
The liturgy is at 1 o'clock, but 7 o'clock is there too. And also too, all around the church, beginning Holy Thursday night, we're going to have these different prayer stations. They're praying all the different things. So you can come and go.
There's
all
plenty
day.
of opportunity, I guess, is the point we're making. We're out of time. We're not going to be here next Sunday, which is Palm Sunday, or the following Sunday, which is Easter.
Sunday. Yeah.
We'll be back that first, what is that, April 7th,
April
I think?
7th, we'll be back, yes. And then comes
And then we have our 100th episode anniversary.
Yeah,
We're in the
full of
world.
surprises.
Yeah.
Well, is it full of surprises?
Yeah, at this point it sure is.
I guess Jerry's in charge of the 100th anniversary.
No.
We're all gonna be surprised because if he has some, he hasn't shared them with us yet. Father, thank you. I didn't mean to rush through this, but
That's okay. There was a lot there. And
I know. I looked at your notes and what you're scribbling on, and I didn't give you a chance to. That doesn't mean that afterwards we still can't go back and revisit this.
Yeah, we should. As after we come back, sometime we should talk about what the resurrection is.
Because the resurrection is like the big thing in our faith.
Yeah.
And it's always struck me. I remember when I heard Father Robert Barron, or Monsignor, or Bishop, sorry. I knew him when he was Father, then Monsignor, now he's a Bishop. But he always said, it's real because people saw the resurrected Christ, right?
Right.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
All right. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody as we this next Sunday begin the Holy Week. And what a wonderful time for us to be together. Thanks for
Don't
joining us.
miss the 3 days.
Yes, yes. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.